Okay, we're all really here, if we're honest, about the money. It's all about investing for profitable outcomes in media. But to what extent does the investment process itself act as a disruptor? How do VCs, venture capital companies, fit into our industry? What do they do in terms of partnership and investment? And what are they looking for? And to talk to us about exactly that, please welcome a partner at Lakestar in Germany, Christoph Schuh. Christopher.
Thank you, Mike. I have to say it's always good to come back. I have worked for the digital media industry for more than 15 years, and I know a lot of you here, and it's interesting to see both sides of the story. So I can give you a good mixture of having a digital media DNA and working now on VC. Just for my auditorium calibration, so who is working for a media company in the auditorium? Okay, it's the most. And who has ever worked with a VC-backed company? That's good. That's more than the average in Europe. So let me start to explain with two charts the company I work for, because so we have a really discrete approach. So we don't post, we don't blog. Our website is only just the front page. But we are one of the biggest European VC investment teams. We are about 20 people. We have our offices around the globe because we think it's important to be, let's say, physically in the tech areas which are important. And we have so far raised about 500 million euros in two funds. The good information is no write-offs so far by 50 investments. I think that's a good quote. And what are we investing in? So we are trying to identify, let's say, game-changing disruptors. That sounds nice, but sometimes we did it. So we have a founder, Klaus Hommels, who is in the digital space since more than 20 years. And I think the track record of the company is great. And it's also affecting the media industry. If you have a look on, for example, Facebook, if you have a look on Spotify, Maker Studios, that are all, let's say, disruptors who are coming closer to the media industry. And that's why media is still important for us. And where I want to start, and that was, let's say, also my mistake as I was working in the media industry, how important VC is as, so to say, an infrastructure layer. Please have a look in the US, and let's take a step back. From 1975 onwards, 42% of all US companies are VC-backed. And employees, 38% of all, let's say, employees working in US companies are VC-backed. I think that's a huge number. And if you look on the market cap as another KPI, 2/3 of, let's say, the value, the market cap value in the US is created or VC-backed. And that infrastructure layer, we're coming back to that, is typical for the US, but not so typical for Europe. And we will discuss what it means for Europe. So if you more focus on the top 10 in the US, you see in 2006, so 10 years ago, only 9% of the market cap was created by VC. So that's just the Microsoft case. And just 10 years later, guess it's 60%. And I was checking yesterday, it's above 2/3 actually in 2017. So we are coming close to 70% in 2017. So all I'm saying is VC, let's say, as an infrastructure layer to create tremendous big business, especially tech business, is common in the US and getting more common in Europe also. And I'm sure you have seen all these comparisons, but it's always important to keep it in mind. So if you look at Uber, they were starting in 2010 with the app. So they have raised about $18 billion. The market cap is about 70 million in 7 years. And look what the automotive industry in Detroit did. They were in the innovators' dilemma, so to say. Second example is the hotel business. Let's take Marriott in comparison to Airbnb. So what is impressive? So analysts are saying that Airbnb will have about 200 million guests in 2017. 20 billion revenue is expected for Airbnb. That is far more than the other hotel competitors. And the last example is Blockbuster. I was checking the numbers, and they had, in the peak time, they had 90,000 employees. They had 6,000 locations, and they were coming into insolvency in 2010. And let's look on Netflix. The market cap is now 70 million. It's a Sequoia-backed company, and the company was created 15 years ago. So, and coming to the media industry where I was working for, and we all know what happened to the newspaper industry, especially in 2008. So the employment was going down by 60%, and we all know it's still a very profitable business, especially in Germany, and the magazine business is also profitable, but where should the growth come from? So if you are a media company, and for sure you're thinking day by day, the growth should come from other business than the historical core business. And if you think about the way to transform, let's say, classical media onto new devices, I think there's something to keep in mind if you look on the mobile business, which is the front end to consume media in the future. You find out that the app economy, an app is 80 to 90% of mobile business. You find out interesting things that 7 of the 8 top downloaded apps are Facebook or Google. And you also find on the top 25, there's no media company, let's say classical one, but you find Spotify, you find Netflix under the top 20. And if you are a media company, you have to keep in mind that you have to come through the cockpit of other competitors, the big 4. And that is the point where you think to corporate or to build or whatever, and that's the point we want to talk to later. So the discussions, as I worked for Boda and as I'm sure at Springer, at Schibsted, at ProSieben, at Holzbrink, at all the other companies they daily have is what shall we do? Shall we partner? That is the first option, and a lot of players do, and we did, for example, with Huffington Post. In Germany, if you partner with a company who is, let's say, very innovative, you have little risk, you are fast in implementing it. You know that you implement a proven model, so the risk is on your side, not as big as if you build a company. But what is the con? The con is you don't get the information you need as a company. It's no exclusivity. If you work with Facebook or Google on the monetization side, so you do what everyone else do, perhaps you get a 6 months preferred partnership, but then it's over and then you are common to all your competitors. And your dependency on the partner is big. So second option is build. And let's say my respect to everyone in media business who's doing that. So we had one, or we have one which is really successful, that's Clicks. And you will see it later here. So that is a make case which works, but I have to say I can count with one hand make cases which are big in the media industry. If we jump to the invest case, which is very common, and I will show it with some charts later, So you get more insight. And that is nice because you work directly with a partner, you get the board information and everything. But I have to say, you are not part of the team. That's what you have to learn. It's different if you just invest. And you get the equity upside, of course, but you don't get all the skills which you need for your internal team. What else can you do? You can buy. And let's see how the big four are acting in buying. I think you all know that Google is acquiring more than one company a month. So they have a deal flow which is incredible. So they have seen more than 2,000 companies in the last 24 months. And the conversion rate, you can say only, but I think the conversion rate of 2% in seeing companies and buying them is also quite good. If you look at Apple, and that is also interesting. So I didn't know, as I was starting the research, that Apple is also buying one company a month. So that is really fast, and the whole DNA of the company has to prepare for that. And if you look at Facebook, of course, the same, one company a month. And that is something we come back to the point where the company has to be focused on. What we are doing from VC side, we are trying to understand the trends in M&A deals. And on the one hand, of course, by exit volume. So more than 50% of the volume has taken place above 1 billion. That is the one information. But the median deal is a value of 70 million. So that is something which a media company can easily handle. And 55% of all deals were in that cluster. So, and that brings us to the point that that the acquisitions which are happening are mainly, we call it acqui-hires. So these are acquisitions to win teams, to win knowledge, to win experience in innovative topics. And if you look here, it's I think you can't see it, but it's in detail. It's just the information that media industry is, let's say, acquisition-wise, is in a good position. You see, let me explain. You see some companies who have investment vehicles like Axel Springer. They do have the digital ventures, or Bertelsmann, they do have the BDMI, or Boda is having principal partners investment vehicle, Verizon Ventures, or they do it directly. But the good information is that the media industry is, or some of the media industry players are prepared to do the innovation speed which is necessary to be innovative. And that is a timeline which is also interesting about the media industry. And you see that in 2014, so there were happening a lot of deals. For example, AOL was acquiring Rantastic. So and then end of 2014, there was a time where everyone was thinking, hey, what is the media industry doing? Nothing happened. And now from, let's say, end of 2015 until end of 2016, the deal flow is getting, it was coming back as it was in 2014. So that is a good information. But if you keep in mind, let's say, a comparison between Europe and the US, and you compare the number of deals in the past 5 years, who was really active in Europe compared to who was really active in the US, you find out that there are only a few companies in Europe who are on the list, and who are on the list to be, let's say, above 20 acquisitions. And above 20 acquisitions, that was just Siemens and Axel Springer. And if you compare that to the Big Four or to other companies like Cisco, like Microsoft, like Oracle, you see that Europe is still, let's say, in comparison, as in all categories, is still, let's say, lagging behind the US industry. And why are the Big Four hiring as they are doing one time a month? If you ask, or if you listen to the CEOs like Mark Zuckerberg, we have never once bought a company for the company. We buy companies for excellent people. If you listen to Tim Cook, we buy companies with really smart people. We take that talent and put them to work on projects that are in line with Apple's own strategy. And if you take Brian from Airbnb, we are excited to have the Local Mind. That was an acquisition they did a few years ago. We are excited to have the Local Mind team join us and lead this next wave of social products. Always the same reason behind the acquisitions. And PwC did research in 2016, I think, about the reasons for tech M&A. And there was a clear answer. 57% was saying innovation and R&D tech talent is the main reason for the acquisition. So, what are the key takeaways from our side? First, so innovation is key for developing long-term value for the company. That's what we all know. But if you can't hire strong talents, so you are nowhere. And that's why the acqui-hires, so we call it, are really important for every company in every category. Secondly, acqui-hiring as an, let's say, permanent instrument is not known in Europe. So the US companies have understood to handle it internally and to handle it, let's say, workflow side. But in Europe, it's not as common as in the US. I have to positive mention that some of the media companies, especially in Germany, are really active, and they have understood how to handle deal flow, how to keep the talented people in the team, how to carefully implement and everything. So that is explicitly Axel Springer, ProSieben, Boda, and Schibsted. I could also mention Holzbrink in that list. Number 4, and the mindset and the DNA of, let's say, the management team of a media company has to do a structural DNA shift. So M&A deal flow and, let's say, successfully closing M&A deals is something which has to be implemented in the daily routine of every management team. And the last one, which I think a lot of media companies are taking care of, so you can't attract and you can't act if you are not, let's say, part of the tech ecosystems which are happening in Berlin, in Stockholm, in New York, on the West Coast and everything. So you have to be locally presented and not just flying in and flying out. I think that's not enough. That is something we have to keep in mind. To summarize, I think the media industry in Europe is in a better position than other industries, but far lacking to the US industry. And we all have to take care that we are not too much dependent on just the Big Four business and build our own business. And I would be happy to help you if you have some interesting ideas. Thanks for your attention.
Chrstoph, thank you. We're going to move on now to get finished, but I'm guessing you're around for a few minutes afterwards if people want to come and talk to you about those issues. In the meantime, let's hope many of the people here will have been acqui-hired by this time next year, so we won't see them again. Thank you, Chrstoph. Thank you.